on from Preston Smith, which...
Why? Why? For a 7th-round pick? What's the percentage of 7th-round picks that pan out?
Very low percentage.
5%? Might as well got some Gatorade instead of a 7th-round pick. And he has as many sacks as Rashawn Gary.
Yep.
Just let's throw that out there.
Yep. That is correct.
I just don't understand the move. I mean, I was fine with him not doing anything, but actually getting... I'm just amazed on how they devalue the locker room. Or maybe they think the locker room is strong enough, but I just think it was a foolish move.
Well, I mean, you're definitely worse today than you were yesterday.
Really?
Yeah. Well, how can you... You're not better.
Well, no, but if they think that Preston Smith was an aging player that they needed to get out from under, and again, I keep seeing people say hashtag money. This was sort of a salary dump-esque move. You don't think they were going to bring him back next season?
Probably not.
So I guess Gutekunst is looking at it like better get something for him than nothing for him?
Sure, but like to make your team a little bit worse? And you can't tell me that, the young guys are just going to step up. So
that's a bunch of crap.
So the coaches then who have played, he has played the second most snaps at defensive end for this team behind Rashawn Gary. So the coaching staff feels that he's their second best defensive end. I can, by their actions, that is a logical jump to make, right? So if they feel he's the second best defensive end, you're a worse team today. Maybe it's not appreciably worse, but you're not a better team. And if this means you are a worse team today than you were yesterday. That doesn't mean you still can't accomplish goals, but you're worse today than you were yesterday.
Sure. What was worse, Razul or this one?
Well, I'm glad you bring that up, Chmura, because I guess based on Gabe's position, they also got worse last year at the trade deadline, right?
1,000%.
By dealing Razul.
100%.
And he obviously performed pretty well for the Buffalo Bills. We don't know how Preston is going to perform for the Steelers. TBD, as they say. But that's interesting that you can, and I don't think that you can get a lot of argument, to be perfectly honest with you, given what they got for Preston, the 7th-round pick. I don't think that there's a lot of teams out there that are trying to, quote, unquote, get worse at the trade deadline. We have talked about how we have seen this evolution of the league where teams are using the trade deadline as an opportunity to get better. And if you go down the list, and I don't have a comprehensive list in front of me, Chmura, but I bet you if we went down the list of teams that acquired players at the trade deadline, even going back as far as like a week and a half ago and things like that, I bet you they're all contenders. I bet you they're all up there on their side of the ledger, NFC and AFC, and they are pushing towards a championship. Can the Packers say that this morning?
No.
I mean, you can kind of get Razul, even though he might regret it now because
they need corners
is an issue. But you got a 3rd-round pick is pretty good pick. That's still a solid pick. That's good value.
You were 3-6, Chmura, right? You were 3-6. It's not like they were playing great at this point last year. They really didn't even take off until after Thanksgiving when they won those games against Detroit and Kansas City back-to-back. So, yeah, last year it made sense being sellers. Like, it made sense for the Cleveland Browns to trade away Zadarius Smith, right? Like, they're sellers. Like, the rest of the season doesn't necessarily matter in terms of how good you are. Like, I can make that one make sense. This one, I have a harder time making sense of because you didn't then make a secondary move that made you better.
Is this the worst position on the team? The D-line.
Yes.
Well, from a production standpoint, right? I think we've gone over that a number of times.
So you got rid of even though he's a guy.
Yep.
You got rid of a guy. Like I would have been more comfortable them trading a linebacker because it seems like they got some players over there and a little more depth.
But I also think that they are hoping that can be a position of strength for once in. Well, my lifetime.
What, since Ray Nitschke was roaming the field? The last time the linebacker group was a strength.
I'm just saying, I think they're looking around going, we finally have nailed and we finally have landed on some decent players at that position. So they're like, we're not getting rid of them now. They're making up for it. Basically what I'm saying to you is they're making up for, with this linebacking core, all of the generations before where it was, I do want to hear from Brian.
I was going to say, Jen, that what would make this linebacker group even better
A
Even
good
better.
defensive line.
If they had a decent defensive line in front of them, they'd shine even more. They'd be like Tampa Bay, the year they came in and beat us at home with Brady, with White and who's another. They had a couple really good linebackers. And then look at San Francisco.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know where they go from here with the defensive line. Because I think I know what Van Ness is. I think I know what Gary is. And running it back is it's foolish. It's foolish.
So, Chew, what I'm hearing from you, and this is really interesting stuff this morning, as Gabe is saying, the Green Bay Packers actually got worse yesterday. How much worse? Well, that's to be determined. But he's saying that there at least is some incremental worsening of the roster after yesterday's trade deadline. And Chewy, you are saying, hear what they're saying. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. You're saying you don't think Gutekunst thinks they're going to win a championship this year.
No, I think Gutekunst believes that, like I said yesterday, there are ping pong balls and the clear thing in the lottery. I think he believes he has maybe 3, and then next year he may have 7 or 8. But he's not going to have 7 or 8 rolling it back with this defensive line. He's just not. I mean, none of them are playing. Kenny Clark, he's getting paid like an A player, right?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Rashawn Gary, A player, and they're playing like C players,
Yeah.
And this is such. If I was to rank the positions, I would go quarterback, cornerback, D-line, receiver.
In terms of NFL in order of importance.
If you look at the good teams, receiver might be 3, but D-line certainly 4, because you need guys that can score. And it's just it's an anchor is what it is. It's an anchor that's going to hold you down. And it's, I don't know. I just don't know how he's going to address it, Jen, because the only way to address it under Gutekunst is to draft a guy with the 28th or 26th pick, and whether he pans out, we have no idea.
Right, and Gabe was talking this week about how it's crapshoot, right? Like some of the best DNs in the league are, what, Gabe, top 10?
Yeah,
top 15?
top half of the first round.
So the Packers are sort of on the outside looking in. Could they, of course, move up to get into that area in the draft? Of course. Now we're looking way, way, way ahead to April, the end of April, in the NFL draft, which will, of course, be held in Green Bay. Let's hear from Brian Gutekunst yesterday when asked about how he came to this decision to trade away Preston Smith, and because it doesn't exist in a vacuum, guys, and not go out and get anybody either.
Gutekunst, I want to try and help fans understand, like last year you're 3-6 and you trade with Sewell, but you're probably not thinking at that moment, hey, we've got a team that could be winning the Super Bowl. Now you feel like you have a championship team, and even if Preston's snaps weren't going to be as many, there's probably still value to him. So when you have your team in the position it is there a risk of moving on from an older player, or is it, again, the young man's game conversation?
Yeah, I think, it's no different than last year. I think there were some players we wanted to see. I think that, the trend of how the snaps were going was only going to continue that way. So, I think it wasn't something that we set out to do. It wasn't something that we called a bunch of teams saying, hey, are you interested in Preston Smith? Because we know his value. But when the opportunity came and we got the phone call, we just thought it made sense for us for what we're trying to do. And again, I think he's going to a very good situation with a playoff caliber team and a really good organization. So that always, from my end of it, does help a little bit, especially with a guy who's given to us what Preston has given to us.
Well, at least he gets to go somewhere fun.
Hey, I mean, okay, what does he mean by what they're trying to do? What are they trying to do?
Give Brenton Cox more snaps.
Sure.
Wait, you're going to have to repeat that in slower. What did you just say?
Trying to get some more snaps for Brenton Cox.
Get Brenton Cox more snaps.
I heard the Cox part. I want to be clear on what I heard.
I know you heard that
I'm just
one.
not sure what you were saying surrounding that part of the sentence.
Get Brenton Cox more snaps.
So who got better in the NFC? Detroit?
Detroit got better. I mean,
Washington?
Washington got better. Minnesota got better.
Washington got Lattimore, didn't they, yesterday?
Yeah. Lattimore, yeah. Mm-hmm. Did Philly get anybody?
No. I don't believe so.
So 3 NFC teams got better. Who are
so the Niners traded for a defensive tackle.
The Cardinals added a defensive end.
Mm-hmm. Trying to think who else. Obviously, Commanders and Lattimore.
I mean, the Giants said they were not parting with that. Sorry.
Tried to get him for a 4th round was the rumor.
Packers?
No, that was the rumor of what the Giants wanted to trade for.
Oh.
So when it came down to Preston Smith, because I don't believe the young guy's getting better with more snaps, I think that's a bunch of crap. Do you think it was a money thing, or do you think it was actually, I can do something with a 7th-round pick?
Probably both.
Kind of seems like a money thing.
But I also think that Goody loves his picks.
Sure, but even he knows, like a 7th-round pick, might you hit? Sure, but it's less than, it's what? Okay, I've got 1 pick in my back pocket. Maybe that player turns into something. Like for every Donald Driver out there, there's a Cameron Pratt, right?
Which is going to be a 7th-round pick. It'll be a 7th-round pick, but maybe 26th or 27th in the 7th round.
It'll be a later 7th-round pick because, the Steelers are expected to be a playoff team. So, it's not like it's going to be a top-end 7th-round pick.
Couldn't they have just cut him?
At the end of the season, they could have if we're talking about adding, saving the money.
So he must value that 7th-round pick in some way because otherwise, why wouldn't you just keep a veteran, a leader who, Gabe, you said 54% of the snaps at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
He must think that 7th-round pick is valuable because otherwise, why wouldn't you just cut him at the end of the year, save the salary? What are they saving this year? I thought it was pretty negligible from a money standpoint.
It's like $1 or $2 million.
Yeah, exactly. I saw $1 million and some change.
Yeah, it's nothing.
So
you also have to factor in Goody values sure picks, but he doesn't even 7th-rounders don't always make the roster.
No, but you know what 7th-rounders are good for, Joshy? Packaging. Trading,
Mr. Irrelevant,
moving up
into the 6th round.
Well, I'm just saying, you just throw it on the back end of a tray, or you throw it on he likes having those little side things.
But
sweeteners
you're trading
is what they are
a guy away who was. He traded a guy on the team that was leading in sacks.
Splenda? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying those 7th-round
Smith for Splenda.
Yes, they're sweeteners.
Yeah.
You know where you throw something in? You throw something in to make a deal happen. Somebody comes to your garage sale and they want to buy the old Victrola, but they're not really sure on it. And you're going, hey, I'll throw in that Donald Driver helmet that's been sitting in my garage for a while. You know what I mean? It's a sweetener. Sweetens the deal. So a couple of things I want to, again, we talked about how Goody, I think he values that 7th-round pick. Does he value it highly? No, not as much, obviously, as a 1st-round pick, et cetera, et cetera. So I think he values that. I think he is giving guys a long leash to develop. We heard that a number of times from him yesterday, guys, to the point of, there was a transition with the defensive scheme, right? Bringing Hafley and switching, which might also, by the way, contribute to Preston Smith's lack of production, right? Wasn't he better in the other? Now, again, him covering wide receivers notwithstanding, speedy wide receivers notwithstanding, did it feel like he was better in the old scheme than in this scheme, Gabe?
I think he was just kind of the same guy in both. I mean, I guess he was a little more productive last year in terms of the overall number of sacks that he had, but I don't know. Like the last few years, Preston Smith has been a guy. Yeah, he had 8 sacks last year, 2.5 through 9 games this year. But I don't want to hear any more about the scheme is the reason they're struggling. I really don't want to hear it. I heard it from Goody yesterday. I don't want to hear it anymore, man. They have come up. I don't know what more excuses you could come up with for why this defensive line isn't productive. Between chipping and teams who change schemes and players who change, it's amazing anybody ever gets a sack. Anytime you see somebody get a sack, the Packers should probably be getting on their knees, thanking God that somebody overcame all the obstacles to get a sack in the NFL. It is unbelievable the amount of excuses we are willing to make for this defensive line in the way they're underperforming.
Okay, but why is Goody doing that then? Why can't he just come out and say they're not good enough?
Because he drafted and paid him?
Because he can't do anything. Yeah.
Look, you got to cover you for your guys to an extent.
Doesn't see any value in.
I mean,
if you admitted it was a problem, you would have to say why didn't you go get someone then?
Yeah, why didn't you try to address it?
If you were to say this was an issue and we're not good enough, then everyone says, well, you traded someone away. What the hell?
100%. It just doesn't. I can't make it make sense.
Well, the next line of
comes
this
down to. I hate to say it. This is just bad first round picks. I'm sorry, they're just bad. Eric Stokes, bad. Quay Walker turning out to be bad. Devontae Wyatt, for where he is drafted, not a good pick. Certainly Rashawn Gary, not a good pick. That's four players, 4 first-round picks on your defense that grossly underperform. You're not going to be good.
Yeah, I just don't. How long realistically, Chew?
I mean, don't forget
Can we
Lucas
put it
Van
on the
Ness.
poll?
Yeah. Realistically, Chew, how long should it take you to get used to it?
I'm giving him one more year and more snaps. I think he can turn it around.
Okay, Goody, now you're on the same page.
But look,
Congratulations.
Can we poll it, Joshy? And I don't know how to say it, but 9 games into the season, do you believe the Packers defense was bad in the past because of the players or Joe Barry Carroll? Because I'm starting to lean heavily, and I think Joe Barry Carroll is not a defensive coordinator, but I'm really leaning towards these players are just average at best.
I mean, a handful of them are. Yeah. Like, part of it certainly is Joe Barry. But I think...
I mean, they already have more turnovers than they had all of last year.
50-50?
No, it's... I mean, the players aren't... The
But
players
most of
are
them by a
definitely an
guy he
issue.
brought in free agency.
Well, you also have to factor in that the players he had have 2 of them have gotten worse and less productive, with Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark. They're
Who's that?
basically non-factors who were better last year.
Yep.
And it wasn't even that great.
Lots of reaction rolling in this morning, guys, as you would expect. RJ from Atlanta says, I'm fine with the trade. Preston wasn't playing well. It opens up rotation, and I'm fine with Goody making a big move. I guess not making a big move. Unless you can get a high-level young CB or edge, I don't want an old, washed-up veteran. Fair? That's fair.
No, I think it's fair. If you didn't want to pay the going price for Marshawn Lattimore, I get that. I 100% understand.
Or, again, the guy from the Giants, 𝘾𝘃𝙀𝙀.
Yeah, if you wanted to give up a 4th-round pick, because that guy would have just been a rental. This is the last year of his contract. If you didn't want to give up that, I understand. I don't understand. Like, clearly the coaching staff, okay, it opens up more things. Who was Preston Smith blocking? Who is playing so incredibly well that the coaching staff was going, nope, we're playing Preston Smith instead? I'm waiting. I'm waiting for any sort of answer because he wasn't blocking anyone. If Lucas Van Ness was playing that great, guess what he would have done? He would have had more snaps than Preston Smith.
Starting.
If 𝘾𝘃𝙀𝙀 was playing that great, he'd be getting more snaps.
Well, but
than Preston Smith.
now there's no excuse. Like, now Lucas Van Ness has to start showing up. Now he has to be more productive. He has to have a breakout second half of the season. And maybe he will be able to point to, it was Smith. He was jamming me up. I couldn't get, the reps I needed to get better, to evolve and progress and all of those things. Maybe. Like, let's cross our fingers, cross our toes, cross our eyes, and hope that that's the reality.
So then isn't that an indictment on the coaching staff?
I'm just saying that's the only thing today, Gabe, that I am going to look forward to, given the move that was made yesterday.
Look, and I think that if as a fan, I don't think I'm going to be able to tell much of a difference with Preston Smith and Van Ness and 𝘾𝘃𝙀𝙀 in there. It's all negligible, but it's an issue, and you made the team worse by getting rid of one of your rotational guys.
I think that's a really interesting position. I did not wake up this morning thinking the Packers got worse, but Gabe, you're making an excellent point. And again, you think they got worse last year as well when they traded away Rasul. Now, the proof is in the pudding. They were actually much better in the second half of last season. Do you see that as being a possibility this year, that even with this move, where today, this morning, what even date is it? The 7th? Are we at the 6th? The November 6th. Is it possible for them to still do what they did last year and put together a strong second half of the season?
Absolutely, because they played well in the second half of the season, not because their cornerbacks balled out, because Jordan loved it. And a lot of this comes down to Jordan. Like, if Jordan, gets back to what he was in those last 8 games last year, cuts down on the turnovers, has the big plays, then it's going to be, the team is going to be good. They're going to be fine. But the defensive line, we've talked about it all year. This, to me, is the potential Achilles heel of this team. Of the lack of production that they have. When you're going up against the Detroit Lions, when you're going up against the Vikings, potentially the Niners as they get healthier, like when you're going up against those really good teams in the postseason, you need a really good front four, and they just don't have it.
800-990-3776. Keep getting us your reaction this morning to the Packers trading away Preston Smith to the Steelers. They did not get anybody at the trade deadline, and Gabe is saying they got worse by trading away a veteran who was playing 54% of the snaps. We'll take a break, continue this conversation, and we're going to get to Jordan Love because Goody weighed in on him yesterday as well, and very interesting what he told us about how he measures his progress as well. Whoo, boy, stick around.